Hello, everybody. Greetings and welcome along once again to the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Championship. It is the third weekend of the season in 2025, and we are ready for yet another exciting encounter after the battle yesterday that saw a third new team taking a victory in 2025. The Bundang by Racecraft car number 7 taking the victory in fantastic fashion. That is, of course, the car belonging to Li Jikong and Jungwoo Lee, the Korean driver. Well, now it's a different day, it's a different challenge, and it's definitely going to be an exciting battle and a great contest for all of the contenders in front of us as we have another challenge to line up. Pole position this time goes the way of the number 27 Lepert Motorsport car, and it'll be Nicholas Pertolatti that will start the race. He's definitely going to have an interesting challenge of it as he continues to battle away with his teammate Ethan Brown. But it will be an interesting challenge for all of the competitors to see what will happen in Fuji. There is one non-start, and that is the number 68 that is not going to be taking part in the race battle. Race 1 obviously saw some damage for the number 71 car of Superchai Widabawanpong, so that car will not be taking into that car will not be starting the race as normal. Superchai Widabawanpong is actually taking over the car of the number 68, so that car will not be starting on this particular occasion now. So as a result of the change around, it's going to be slightly different as to who does what. The number 68 car will not be taking the start, as I mentioned, as Superchai Widabawanpong will actually be taking over that particular car. Normally he would be racing that particular car, the number 71, but the Kamlong Racing car is now not going to be competing after its problems yesterday for Bertram and Kenneth Lau, so that car will not be taking the start. Very unfortunate then for the Kamlong Racing team car. You can see that the weather conditions are slightly different compared to what they were yesterday as well, because yesterday we actually ended up having a very bright and sunny day. It's a little bit more overcast today, not by much, but the humidity is what's really going to make the difference then for our drivers. So as long as they have a relatively good race battle in front of them in terms of the conditions out on the course with humidity, that shouldn't cause too much of a lasting effect when it comes to the tire degradation. But as you can see from our pictures out on the course, it's a little bit greasy in terms of what the competitors will give us on the far side of things. So I think we're going to get to see a rather interesting dynamic for the contenders on this particular occasion. So now we should see a really exciting duel for the contenders as they go back into the action once more. So we're going to get to see some very close proximity race battles for our contenders. They will gear up for the start once again. Let's see if we will give ourselves a good start from the outset. As we know, of course, it's going to be Nicholas Pertolatti that will take over the starting position of pole for the number 27 Lepert Motorsport car. He will be lining up alongside Juntai Shiro for the promotion racing team. So that is going to be the interesting charge from Juntai Shiro on that front row of the starting grid. Expect a big challenge from him. Then we'll have the LK by Climax car lining up third on the grid. That is the car that, of course, is currently being driven by Liu Kaishun. So Liu Kaishun is going to be taking possession of that particular car. It was his teammate Tikuan Kao who was in the car yesterday, but obviously he will take the second stint today. Whoever started race 1 and qualifying 1 yesterday will now finish the race rather than start it, as the two drivers obviously swap over in race 2. That's how it all works out. Fourth position on the starting grid will be the SQDA Grit car, the number 63. That is the car that will be started by Kohei Tokomasu. So with Tokomasu, with local knowledge of the circuit, of course, has a great chance to get up amongst the top 3 from P4 on the starting grid. So we've got 2 cars from Pro-Am on the second row of the grid. 1 Pro car, that is obviously Brown and Pertolatti, and 1 Am car on the front row of the grid. Juntai Shiro doing a very good job over 1 lap. It's in race trim when obviously racing alone, it hasn't quite worked out in his favor up to this point. Then we have 2 Pro cars, and they are from the same stable, effectively, SJM Theodore Racing and DW Evans GT. The cars, number 32 and number 16, they are essentially teammates, as it were, And on this occasion, we're going to see a great charge from the start because Alex Denning will start the race for the SJ and Theodore car, and then Emilien Card will be the one who gets the start for the DW Evans GT car. The Arrows Racing team will be a lot higher up the grid than it was in race 1 because the number 83 for this race was qualified by and will be driven by Weron Tan, who has significantly more pace than his AM partner, Marchi Min. So those two will obviously still race together, but it'll be Marchi Min that will finish the race rather than start it on this occasion. Ninth on the grid, well, this is going to be fascinating because the number 33, the Batmobile racing car, Shinji Takei, he was due to be partnering up with a regular driver within the Batmobile racing car, Kumar Prabhakaran, but Kumar Prabhakaran has had an issue overnight and now will not be taking the start. Let's look at the cars one by one as they run through. This is Nicholas Pertalati getting himself ready for the start from pole position, taking over, of course, from Hampus Eriksson, who was Ethan Brown's teammate in the first 2 race weekends of the championship. But this is a chance for Ethan Brown to grab his second race victory of the season. So nearly did it yesterday, of course. There is Juntai Shiro's car, the promotion racing machine. Now, because he is on his own for this race, he doesn't have a teammate to swap over for. He will obviously be taking a handicap at the pit stop. He'll just get a increased pit stop duration minimum time, which I think is 5 seconds longer than it would normally be in ordinary circumstances, and that is to compensate for the fact that the driver is not changing. There is Liu Kaixun for the LK Motorsport by Climax Racing team, and so number 3 will start P3, and of course he shares that car with Zhao Ziquan. So that'll be a very tough race battle for them, actually, because Liu Kaixun will get a good start initially, but then depending on how they manage to transfer over in the second stint, things could get interesting from there. There's the SQDA grid car. Kohei Tokomasu will start the race, and then we'll obviously hand over to the very talented Korean driver Changwo Lee a little bit later on in the race. But as Kohei Tokomasu is a very good choice for this car, he's essentially the ringer within the SQDA grid team on this circuit at Fuji. So I would not be too surprised at all to see him pushing his way to the front, at least near the Nicholas Pertalati mark. There's Alex Denning getting himself ready to go for SJM Theodore in the number 32 car. He, of course, sharing that car with Leong Hon Cho, or Charles Leong for international fans, the young man who carries the flag of Macau. And there is the sister car, the DW Evans GT. It looks going to be the Frenchman Emilien Card that will take the start of the race this time alongside his stablemate Nazim Azman. So those two obviously having a very decent start to proceedings as they working in close proximity, those two cars. 5th and 6th on the starting grid will be an interesting one. There is the Arrows racing car. Weron Tan will be starting the race this time. Marchi Min will be taking the finishing stint. And I should stress, of course, for motor racing fans who are looking at that title of team going, Arrows Racing, are they back in motorsport again? No, it is no relation to the Formula One team of the same name. This is the car that won yesterday, the Bundang by Racecraft car in the capable hands of Li Jikong and Jungwo Lee, the Korean driver. And on this occasion, heading into this particular race, it is going to be Li Jikong who finished the race yesterday. There is Jungwo Lee smiling and waving to the fans back home. And we saw how strong a finish to the stint that we had yesterday from Li Jikong, so I wouldn't expect too much of a difference. Now, there is Shinji Takei. He is the only listed driver for Batmobile Racing for the second race. Kumar Prabhakaran has had to disappear from the circuit rather post-haste. You've got to remember that these drivers are not just drivers, they're also businessmen, and so his work commitments have kept him away for this particular race. So it'll be Shinji Takei alone, and he will take an additional penalty at the pit stop. Now we've got Li Donghui and Li Dongsheng for the Climax Racing team in the number 76 car. And that is going to be Li Donghui who starts the car on this particular occasion. There is the 67, the Climax Racing machine of Zhang Yaqi. So Zhang Yaqi will be sharing the car, as always, with Yaoling Bo. And so Zhang Yaqi is going to be the one who actually gets to start the race on this occasion. And they will start from a very competitive 11th place on the grid. They'll be sharing the 6th row of the grid with the LK by Climax car, the number 66. And on this occasion, it is going to be a start to the race for Liu Jiwei, who shares that car with Ling Kang. So as they continue to prepare the car ready in formation, we're obviously going to see the 67 car again. That is the car belonging to Zhang Yachi. Also the car in 13th on the grid. That is the Z Speed machine, I do believe, in 13th place, although actually they're on the wrong side of the grid for that. So that's actually the Z Speed car in 14th on the grid. That is the car that's driven by Chen Chunhua and Tim Zimmerman. So the number 15 will be started on this occasion by Chen Chunhua, sharing that car as he is with Tim Zimmerman. There's the car lining up alongside. That is the 78. That is Sitaluk Buncharodon, the True Vision Motorsports Thailand machine. And the Thai driver, Sitaluk Buncharodon, is going to be looking forward to a very exciting run as they continue to battle to try and work their way up through the field. There was a podium yesterday in the class earlier on, so no major concerns on this particular occasion. The number 5 is in the mix next. That is the HZO Fortis team by Absolute, the Malaysian team. And that is, of course, the team that is piloted by Hadi Zadalo, along with Haziq Zadalo. So it's Hardy on this occasion that is going to be starting the race. So that will happen close quarters. Next up on the grid is the 89. That is the Lepert Motorsport car of Song Jia-jun and Brendan Leach. This is the Pro-Am car, of course. Brendan Leach, the Pro driver. The Am driver is Song Jia-jun. So Song Jia-jun is going to be starting the race. So expect a very difficult day at the office for them, with Brendan Leach hoping to make as much progress as physically possible in the latter stages of the race. There is the sister car for Bundang by Racecraft. This is the 17 car, and I do believe it's going to be Terence Kin that will start the race on this occasion. I'm incorrect. It is actually going to be Eng Peng Go that will start the race. Terence Kin is going to be alongside. Next up then is the 86. That is the car from Delta Garage by Absolute. That is the car that will be started on this occasion by Dipo Fitramadan, sharing that car with Umar Abdullah. There's the 51. That is the BC racing car shared by Brian and Johnson Huang. And there is the sister car, yet again, having to go off the back of the grid. And it's Jonathan Chicotto at the wheel, so expect some fireworks. And then right at the very back of the grid, it is the number 71 car. That is the Siam Gas car of Supachai Widabonawanpong. So the only car that is not taking up the start then is the number 68 car. That is the Camlong Racing machine that Kenneth Lau would have started the race in, along with his teammate Bertram Lau, but they will not start due to the damage sustained in yesterday's race. And it was rather unfortunate because they were looking good for a very difficult race battle. So as the contenders are gearing up for another exciting showcase, there'll be 50 minutes once again of motorsport from our competitors. And it's tough again to know who's actually going to get the better side of this one. My money, just for the way that the grid is stacked up here, has to be kind of pointing towards the 27 car on pole position, Nicholas Bertolatti and Ethan Brown, just because of the pro teams. They are vastly ahead of the cars around them. 5th and 6th are the other 2 pro cars in the top 6. Those are the cars belonging to SJ and Theodore and DW Evans GT, effectively sister teams. So that's an important one to bear in mind, because the Lepert car with Ethan Brown and Nicholas Bertolatti. Bertolatti starting the race on pole position. Round 3, race 2 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia 2025 series here at the Fuji Speedway, with the longest straight on the calendar, 1.47 kilometers. That straight. If you get good slipstream, as we saw yesterday, there's going to be a lot of good action. This is race 2. Jake Sanson in the commentary box for you once again. And I would expect a lot of badinage to come from this particular encounter. 4.563 kilometers, this Fuji Speedway, 17 turns. As I've already mentioned, the longest straight is 1.475 kilometers in length. That is a heck of a long straight. So as we wait for the command then from the officials, the one red light remains on the starting gantry, and the Lamborghini Urus at the front of the field sets off in the formation line that it should run. When we get the green light on the top of the starting gantry, the Hurricanes will move. There we go. So the 27, Nicholas Bertolatti to start, Juntai Shiro second. Then it is Luca Shun ahead of Kohei Tokumasu, and then Alex Stenning and Emilion Card will line up with their cars next up. So we go around on the formation lap for the second time this weekend. Yesterday's race was a bit of a thriller. There were some good moments. So now I expect even more from the competitors in race 2. So as the 22 cars, it should be 23, of course, but with the absentee, it's only going to be 22. Leopard Motorsport, number 27, pole position. Promotion Racing's Juntai Shiro, second. Then the LK by Climax and the SQDA Grid. It's going to be SJM Theodore and DW Evans sharing the third row of the starting grid. The same team in-house, essentially, there, completing that top 6 run. Alex Denning and Emilio Card to start, after the likes of Luca Shun and Kohei Tokumasu on the second row of the grid, and Nicholas Bertolatti, and of course, Juntai Shiro starting on the front row. Then the Arrows Racing 83, we're in town at the wheel. Bundang by Racecraft, race-winning car yesterday, Li Jikong, 8th position on the grid. Then the Batmobile and Climax Racing cars, number 76, the 67 is 11th on the grid from the LK by Climax Racing machine of Liu Jiwei and Ling Kang, 12th position on the grid for them. 13th on the grid will be Sitaluk Bonchorong, the True Vision Motorsport Thailand car, the Z Speed of Chen Chunhua, and then the Leopard Motorsport of Song Jun, and then it is Hari Zadal L for HZO Fortis, the Absolute Racing Machine of Vincenzo Ricci and Tianhao Du, and then the Bundang by Racecraft car of Eng Peng Go is going to be starting the race this time. Then it is Dippo Fitramarden for Delta Garage by Absolute. And the BC Racing cars, Brian Huang and Jonathan Chikotto will take the start in the 51 and 11 cars. And then Superjai Winnipong will start from the Siam Gas Corsa car in 22nd on the grid. So all of the teams ready in pursuit of what promises to be a really exciting challenge from the outset. So the Lamborghini Urus will bring the field around. It will peel off into the pits as we have come to expect it to do. And then we'll have a really strong charge from the off. The competitors are hoping for a clean race here. We certainly got a relatively good one yesterday, only really one car picking up any serious damage. So now we've got to bring the rest of the field round in the hope that it's going to be a clean start. Normally race 2 does get a little bit more frenetic and feisty than race 1 because you're willing to take a few more risks in the second race than you normally would do in race 1. So the cars will bring their way around once again. I think we just caught a whiff of the 37 Absolute Racing car there. That is Tianhao Du, who is in that particular car. There goes the Urus. Pulls off into the pits, leaving the 22 cars from the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia 2025 series to take the rolling start procedure on the start-finish straight. 1.475 kilometers in length this straight. The lights are on. When they go out this time, it's going to be a race start for the second time this weekend at Fuji Speedway here in Japan. There's a long pause for the rolling start, but the lights go green. We're racing it for the second time at Fuji Speedway. And it's a good charge from Nicholas Bertolatti. He's not going to have a lot of pressure from Juntai Shiro to the first corner. Alex Denning is already on the warpath from the third row of the grid, looking to get into second position, maybe even dive into the inside line. I thought he was going to have a threat on the move there from Nicholas Bertolatti, but it's not to be. He has to give best, and there's a spinner. I think that's the Batmobile car that's gone around in the middle of the pack. That is very bad news indeed for Shinji Takei, if that is the case. And it looks to me as though it might be the Batmobile car that went around. So the rest of the field has obviously got to try and work its way further forward. And it was indeed Shinji Takei in the Batmobile that spun around on the first sector. Big disappointment there for Takei. Not what he needed at all. Oh, there's still some more good battles going on the far side of the course as drivers are trying to throw their weight around. Johnny Chikotto, I think that was, trying to make some big moves. But it looks to me as though we've got another big move coming. Alex Denning looking to defend the position and try and get around the outside of Juntai Shiro. So Alex Denning, third position for the moment, looking for a little bit more pace as they lock up into the hairpin at the end of the second sector. Hoping for a little bit more and a very intense run for the competitors as they run forward. But there is your leader. No worries at all for Nicolas Bertolatti, the Finn. Taking over valiantly from Hampus Eriksson, and that's Alex Denning getting in a second position. We just saw the end of that maneuver. So Alex Denning has got himself into second place. So that is good timing then from the SJM Theodore as they go out of the final hairpin and they will charge down the straight. Good start from Nicholas Bertolatti. Not a bad one at all. My apologies. I thought it was Alex Denning that had gone into fifth position. It is actually Luca. No, I was right. It is Alex Denning. Then it is a poor start, I'm afraid, for Luca Shun. Juntai Shiro is third. Weiren Tan's done a good job in the Arrows Racing car into fourth position. But how much longer is that going to last? Because he's got Kohei Tokumasu up the inside line. They're racing for position. And in the early phase of the race, you can leave a tiny bit of a mark. And in fact, Tokumatsu has got ahead. So now it's up to Emilion Card to try and challenge the very talented Wiron Tan. So they will continue to move further aside around the course. We've just been told that the pit window will open at 3 minutes past 1 local time. It will, of course, close after just 10 minutes. So the competitors have to come into the pits during that time. And Nicholas Bertolatti leading well here from Alex Denning. Denning will want to put on a bit of a stink of a drive here to close up on Bertolatti. From his point of view, look, Nicholas hasn't done the first 2 weekends. I have. I've got the measure of this car on this circuit. Not that this circuit bears too much relation to what's happened in the previous race weekends, but certainly if you're in the groove of the 2025 car, it's particularly prevalent that you have a good, strong opening gambit. So Alex Denning in front of Juntai Shiro, then Wiron Tan, no longer in 4th position, of course, because it's the Japanese driver Kohei Tokumatsu who was able to get through into position and move up into 4th place. So an interesting situation for the leaders up front. Alex Denning is trying to work his way forward into position with Juntai Shiro into 3rd place, trying to shake off the attack, but there is a big attack coming. Looks to me as though Li Jikong is going to have some big pressure here from Li Dongsheng. And so we're going to get to see an interesting one. And diving up the inside line, that's going to be an overtaking move, I think, from Emilion Card. So Emilion Card is going to put the DW Evans GT car into position. Right, we're riding on board further back. This is on board with Li Jikong. So this is the car that won yesterday, don't forget, the Bundang by Racecraft Machine. A good effort from the drivers as they continue in close proximity. So really interesting. Bertolatti, Denning, Toshiro, then Emilion Card, who's now through into 4th position for DW Evans GT, ahead of Kohei Tokumatsu and Wiron Tan. The Arrows Racing driver now dropping back into 6th position. 7th place, by the look of it, is still Yuka Shun. Then it is Zhang Yachi. And then Jonathan Chikotto in the PC Racing car. He really has stormed up into 9th position. Started, of course, 21st. So he's gone through more than half the field in a lap and a half. That's Jonathan Chikotto for you. Going out of the hairpin, that's Juntai Shiro. He is one of the 3 drivers in this race that will not change driver. Now, the incident involving 86 and 33, that is the incident between Dipper Fitramadon and Shinji Takei that is under investigation. So that tells me that the stewards are trying to figure out whether or not Shinji Takei was pitched into the spin there in the Batmobile car by Dipper Fitramadon of the Delta Garage by Absolute crew. Now, if that is the case, then a penalty is going to come the 86 car's way, which is going to do them no favors whatsoever. Side by side to the corner. Here comes Kohei Tokumatsu, trying to go right round the outside of Wiron Tan. But Wiron Tan has held his position there. So Kohei Tokumatsu going to need to find a little bit something special now. But of course, he's got pressure from himself as well. Liu Kai-shun, 7th position. He has a chance to move his way further forward. And then Jonathan Chikotto in front of Zhang Yachi and Li Jikong rounding up the top 10. So Li Donghui is in 11th position in front of Sitodok Boncharon. Then Lu Jiwei, Chen Junhua, Song Jiajun, and then Dipper Fitramadon under investigation, as we know from the stewards, for his little role in the incident earlier on with Shinji Takei. We're on board with Juntai Shiro, 3rd position in the promotion racing car. Heavy braking down to the bus stop. Pitch the car in. It's so difficult to get that line right. You've got to just turn in and hope you're going to catch the right amount of curb as you go through the apex there. If you get even slightly higher, then the car will basically be bounced on and then spat out again. It doesn't look like you lose a massive amount of time then, but in terms of momentum and then time alone, you're probably costing yourself anywhere between half a second and 3/4 of a second just for that one mistake over the corner. Again, half a second doesn't sound like much, but A, you can't blink in that time, and B, this is motorsport. Races can be won by the 1,000th. So off the hairpin and going down the main straight once again. Good work from Alex Denning to keep Nicholas Bertolatti honest up front. Once again, Lepert versus SJM Theodore. Alex Denning just trying every trick he knows to try and close that gap down. Then Jun Taishiro, Emilio Card is still battling away. That looks like we're on Tan, actually, who's now into 5th position. I've got a sneaky suspicion that Keiho Tokumatsu was able to get ahead on the last lap, and the timing hasn't updated for some reason. We'll double check on that one. So the pit window is set to open in 13 minutes' time. So the drivers can still just have a great race of it at the moment as they continue in close proximity. The fastest lap of the race, by the way, has just been set by Kohei Tokumatsu. So Kohei Tokumatsu, who is here as a circuit specialist, of course, certainly knows his way around the car now too, because he's able to put in a time good enough to be P1 in class, I think. Yes, it is P1 in class in the Pro-Am. That puts him ahead of Wiron Tan, because we've got several classes within classes, of course, don't forget. We've got the Pro-Am, the Am, and the Lamborghini Cup. So at the moment, despite the spin, it looks as though Shinji Takei for the Batmobile Racing Crew is still on course to get the Lamborghini Cup win. The Pro category, well, it's whoever wins the race, essentially, isn't it? Because Nicholas Bertolatti still having that duel with Alex Denning, and there's another duel as they come through as well, up in the top 6, I think that was. Jonathan Chicotto trying to deal with the 2 drivers around it. We go on board, and we got side-by-side in front. This is Hadi Zadal-O, who is currently watching the battle between Sung Jae-jun and Deepa Vitramadon. So hopping over the curbs. And it'll do very nicely indeed as they get to the braking zone down the main straight. You can sense that there's a little bit of pressure on Emilien Card now from Kohei Tokumatsu, who still finds himself running in 5th position. There is Tokumatsu swarming around all over the back of the car. The car in front, of course, is what we're referring to. Emilien Card doing a good job so far in this weekend, as well as in this race in particular. So still the battle lines are drawn here up at the front end of the field. Nicholas Bertolatti still has a good edge on Alex Denning. There's already a track limits first warning. This time it's for the number 67 car. That's Zhang Yachi. So Zhang Yachi getting the time penalty on that particular occasion, trying to make sure that he doesn't push himself and stretch himself too far forward. We're back on board with Juntai Shiro as he works his way out of the bus stop, back on the power. The car loops round to the right. He doesn't really want to be turning at that point. He wants to be getting on the power in a straight line in a very linear fashion, and that's just not the way that this is working out for Juntai Shiro. Look at the duel, really stepping up the attack now. The 63, Kohei Tokumatsu, really wants to get this overtaking move done then on Emilien Card to get himself into 4th position once again. So they come off the turn, and Tokumatsu's really got a move lined up, and then so too has Jonathan Chicotto going wheel to wheel with Wiron Tan. So we're going to see potentially a couple of overtaking moves here as they go down the main straight once again. Slipstream is a massive kick-in effect on a circuit like Fuji. So we could see a bone cruncher into the first corner if a driver or two is going to be a little bit brave on the brakes. Doesn't look like anybody's prepared to take that risk. So 39.5 minutes to go. And let's not forget that the drivers will have a lot of support from back home. They'll have a lot of support around the circuit as well. So they've got a lot of good motivators in this part of the world. But an excellent bit of driving so far from Kohei Tokumatsu to put Emilien Card under a lot of pressure. Here comes that 4th place battle. And you can see again that Card is doing everything he needs to do to keep our man on the spot, Tokumatsu, the chance to make the progress to move forward. So we're going to continue to see some more great duels for position here. Just under 40 minutes left of this 50-minute encounter. So we're past the first 10 minutes or so. But there is still a long way to go for Nicholas Bertolatti. Look back, there's Alex Denning. He's trying to keep him honest in the early stages. As long as you can stay relatively close, you're going to get a much better opportunity to make progress. So let's see if there is still going to be a bit of a pressure cooker brewing here from Alex Denning. Wants to stay as close to Nicholas Bertolatti as possible. That is their rival car in the championship fight, of course. Well, we've seen just how impressive Alex Denning can be when the chips are down and the motivation is sky high. All the smiles in that camp over the weekend have been thoroughly, heartily justified. They've been so strong at the start of this campaign. Was that a spin there for Tokomatsu? I think that might have been. I think Tokomatsu had a spin there. So certainly it looks to me as though the ringer has been caught out at the point on the course when he was expecting to be very strong. Fourth position there for Kohei Tokomatsu. It'd be worth having another look to see that again. So we'll double check and see what the score is, but there was certainly a car facing the wrong way there. That's Juntai Shiro in the promotion racing car. I'll try and have a look and see who it was that basically ended up dropping the car. Oh, it wasn't. It was Dipa Vitramadon. So Dipa Vitramadon with the Delta Garage by Absolute car. I think that was the one that ended up spinning around and dropping back down the field, which I suppose is a little bit of justice, really, for the 33 of Shinji Takei for the Batmobile Racing team. But at the same time, it doesn't really change anything. It certainly doesn't improve the situation for Shinji Takei, other than for that car to come into the pits and therefore to spin in the turn and therefore, of course, drop back behind him again. But it is kind of stalemate. That's as it was before. The biggest problem is the amount of time that both men have now lost behind the wheel. That's got to be taken into consideration when they do their calculations as to how many tyres to put on the car, when to bring them in, when to obviously tell their driver to push like stink, because in the closing stages of any race like this, that's almost certainly going to be the game plan. Good work from Nicolas Bertolatti. A lot of pressure from Alex Denning, but he's held his nerve. Juntai Shiro, third position. Fourth place then for Kohei Tokomatsu, who's managed to get ahead of Emilien Card and is looking very good to protect the position here. So through go the top few cars. Just trying to stay in the bunch, essentially, now. Emilien Card, P5. Jonathan Chikotto is P6, a little way further back. Then we've got Marchi Min, who is racing, of course, having had a very strong, successful bout further forward. 35.5 minutes still to go here. We have still got this terrific little scrap going on behind the leading quartet. I think this is the battle still between Emilien Card and Jonathan Chikotto. There is Chikotto in the BC racing car that started on the back row of the grid, and now they're up to P6. This is what happens when you give Jonathan Chikotto a car that's good enough to... Oh, we've got a car stationary there on the sidelines. So that is a car actually stationary. That could bring out the safety car, because that is in a vulnerable position. That is in a dangerous place. So I've got a sneaky suspicion that is going to be a retirement, and that is Liu Jiwei in the LK by Climax car. And there is the safety car. I don't think there was going to be any doubt about whether that was called on this occasion or not. Absolutely no question. When a car is parked up there, you're never going to have a safe race circuit for that particular period. Now, the safety car period is obviously going to bunch up the field. The pit stop window will not change. It will be 1:03 local time here, 1:03 in the afternoon, and then it will be taken away again at 1:13. So they'll get a 10-minute, they'll get a 10-second, is what I meant to say, a 10-second discrepancy there. But certainly for the time being, the safety car controls the pack in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Race 2. Has a chance to continue to make that progress. But there's a lot going on that gives these drivers a little bit more cause for concern. You've got to remember that the safety car means that they can all catch each other up and they will bunch up together, which means that any driver that can do a reasonable job in the first 2 laps of this restart and get close to the mark over the course of proceedings, then there's going to be even more excitement to follow on at the course of this race. Certainly if the field was a bit more spread out like it was. So let's look at the order while the safety car is obviously trying to clear a stricken car and maybe even a little bit of carbon fiber debris that's come off one of those cars. Couldn't quite make out who it was. But certainly if it becomes relevant to the natural storyline of the race itself here, you're definitely going to be in the right place to pick it up. So we approach 3 minutes past the hour. Now, of course, 3 minutes past the hour is when the pit stops will begin. So this is quite an exciting prospect now because the pit window is going to open under safety car. So I would expect quite a few of the teams to throw caution to the winds and just drive it forward. So basically anyone who comes into the pit stop first buys themselves a cheap fuel stop here because it's going to be running very slowly by comparison. So I would suspect that this race is going to take another twist or turn or two more before this race is finished. Don't forget that it's, as the Lamborghini Urus sets off in the distance, it's actually going to be just 10 minutes. And a very interesting challenge that is set to be in that 10-minute window. That's when they've got to make their driver change and top up with fuel and put 2 or even 4 tyres on. So let's talk you through the field as it currently stands, along with the driver who is behind the wheel at that moment. Nicholas Bertolatti for Lepert Motorsport number 27 is the race leader in front of Alex Denning in the SJM Theodore car. Then it is Juntai Shiro for the Promotion Racing team in 3rd place. P4 for SQDA Grit with Kohai Tokomasu running the ship there. 5th on the grid was, of course, Emilion Gard alongside Jonathan Chicotto. That is how much time the young Venezuelan has made to make his way further forward. What an incredible transformation. So 30 minutes to go then, half an hour. A lot can happen in motor racing in half an hour, particularly in a championship as competitive as this one. The pit stop window is about to open. It'll be about 22 seconds in. Safety car in this lap as the pit window opens. Now, do you stay out one more lap and risk the possibility of another safety car potentially getting in the way on the restart, or certainly an incident that could bring the safety car back out into prominence? But certainly for the moment, there is no need to panic. 30 minutes to go, half an hour left of the Fuji weekend from a Lamborghini Trofeo Asia's point of view. So now we'll get to see if everybody is going to come in en masse, because the pit window is indeed open. And that is going to give us a very interesting moment in the pits as well, because the teams are going to be having to work hard to make sure they don't fall over each other when they're all busy together there in the pits. So all the contenders just lining up in the line. We know that the safety car is coming in this lap. It's going to be very tight on the restart. And if our man on the spot can continue to put in good works and good effort after the pit window is closed, then there's a great chance. Right, we're going to get a restart as the pit window opens. Do you go ugly early and come straight in the hope that not many people are going to do the same? Or do you try and get it done on either the next event or the one that preceded this one, of course? So all of the drivers learning very carefully about how to go about the business of racing from a style point of view. I've always said in these situations, less is always more. But we are going to go racing, and we are going to get a couple of cars peeling off into the pits because it's green, 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 green. And we've got 29 minutes left of this exciting race encounter in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Cup. Race 2, here comes the chance from Alex Denning. He's already started to think about the race lead here, trying to go round the outside of Nicholas Bertolatti, as meanwhile it's wheel-to-wheel central further back. I think the 3rd place car, Juntai Shiro, remains there just, but now he is in front of the very talented Malaysian pairing, I think it is, that runs next up in the mix. So into the pits has come the Bundang by Racecraft car. This is the car that took the victory yesterday overall as well as in class. So naturally, there's going to be some high hopes for this car to continue the upward trajectory that it was on after that race finish. Into the pits, the number 5. Changeover then for Hadi Zyril-O, who will hand over to Hazik Zyril-O. And so the HZO40 by Absolute Car is going to disappear out of the blocks. So there is the driver change completed. At the number 5 crew, that is the car, of course, belonging to Hadi Zaralo. He will have handed the car over to Hazik Zaralo. And so balance will be restored to that particular team. We've had a very interesting first sojourn into the Championship 2025. Down the straight, again, no major dramas as the first drivers to make their pit stops venture out of pit lane. That shows you how long their pit stop actually does take. They're going to lose a lap on the leaders, technically, who are these guys doing a grand job. Down to the braking zone. I think that was one of the condos managing to get out in front of the Kiva Supra. So everywhere you look, there's still very good reason to get excited about things. So the 99 into the pits now. That is the car belonging to Jun Taishiro. So you'll note he doesn't get out of the car at any point. What will happen instead is that he's given a 5-second handicap added to his race time. So no matter what lap she would have done back in her continued pathways to move forward. We're just waiting for the minimum time to tick down here for the 99. Checking something under the front splitter on the Ritchie and Do Absolute Racing number 37. I wonder if that's just for precautionary checks or they wonder where he's gone off the road somewhere. And as a result of that, we haven't been able to see the whole thing. But there was definitely some harsh words. Back on board, as the cars are still trying to get up to a decent speed and are still trying to give us a really exciting run to the closing stages of this race. 25 minutes to go. Use the pit stop phasingly, don't forget. Sparingly is probably the word I would have actually chosen to deem to use. But still a tight battle up front. Pertolatti versus the man who's taken so much plaudits for such a small space of time. They go through the sweepers. Long flowing part of the course. This is where you can really start to knock on and tap away at that throttle pedal and just give yourself a little bit more of a boost. Meanwhile, back in the garages, everybody watching along, trying to get excited but not too excited, knowing that their team's drivers out there are really doing a great job to proceedings with the into the pits. That is the BC racing car. Brian Huang taking a back seat as Johnson Huang is now going to take over the car. We do not actually have that much time left in this one. I'm surprised at how quickly it's gone, but the base battles have been very calm and soothing to the soul. No major catastrophically bombastic move yet that I have witnessed, certainly from very talented crew of drivers around him. Just waiting for the minimum time to be completed. Then it's up to you when you stop. They've got that down to the final couple of seconds of pace there, haven't they? Coming out of the pits, where is the Aston going to filter in? You've got to stay ahead. You've got to stay ahead of the curve. That's the problem on cold tyres when you've come off a very good run at the pits. So looks to me as though the race is now well and truly settled in one area if the racing of yesterday is anything to go by. But we know that the Orange Army officials around the course are doing a fantastic job. 23 minutes left of this encounter. So as the competitors work their way through on the far side, it's all about trying to get the most out of the material before you make the pit stop. You've got to try and work your craft through the Fantastic team flying overhead before the start of the race. It's always big pomp and circumstance when we race here in Japan. So it's nice to know that of the circuits across Indonesia and the various locations around, like China, Hong Kong, Macau, even some that have just winged it, but knowing that you would knowing that the battle will still be raging as they work their way through. Back on board with Jun Taishiro. So Jun Taishiro still out on his own, the only car, of course. So expect a really satisfying race battle. There goes the SJM Theodore car. Pit stop, and it's going to get relatively clear here. I wouldn't worry too much about this if I was the team from SGM. So that car has obviously made its pit stop. We still have a handful of cars that haven't made a pit stop yet of any kind. At this point in proceedings, there are just two. That is Zhang Yaqi and Li Yonghui, both of the Climax Racing Team cars. Now, because they're in the same team, I would have technically suspected that maybe the reason for the little hiccup there was because there are only a certain number of competitors in the field this time in the Masters, and potentially giving them their own session amongst the battlers around them will certainly give them pause for thought once again. 21 minutes left of this Lamborghini Super Trofeo Ace Race 1. So for the moment, Ethan Brown has managed to get the lead of this race and hold on to it as a stranglehold, exactly as he was hoping to. That's the number 7 car suddenly emerging into the mix, and the 99 car. So it's definitely looked like a very competitive run for all of the drivers at this point in the proceedings. We're still waiting, of course, to see who is going to finish off the job. Track limits warnings already imposed for the 33. That is the car belonging to Shinji Takei, and the 37. That is the car that is even higher up in this race and is able to cross the line in good position. Right, the pit window's closed. So if you haven't got your pit stop in now, tough luck. You're not going to get it. But fortunately, all of the teams have managed to complete their pit stop windows. So the pit window closes, and I don't think anybody is going to fall foul of the regulations there. It's going to be a really exciting situation for the closing stages of this race then. 19.5 minutes to go. And I would suspect that Ethan Brown is going to be wanting to push here to get well clear of Changwoo Lee. So, of course, as all of the competitors have managed to work their way out of the modern tent for Toyota's Bridge & Co. beginners escape here. But I tell you what, there is a really exciting opportunity. So let's see how things continue to progress down the back straight. Going to get to see the closing stages of proceedings. So, of course, we've had the pit stop for every driver. And that means that we've also had the driver change for every driver. The pit window has closed. So Nicolas Bertolatti has now swapped his car out and traded it for Ethan Brown, who will get behind the wheel and look for their second victory of the season if things keep going well. Well, the only car, well, I'm trying to figure out if is that the 11 that's actually leading the race there? Is that Gavin Huang in the BC racing car? I think that is, I think they've actually managed to work the car into the lead of the race. They have. They've been very careful in terms of their tyre management in the first part of the race. They've obviously stretched the car as long as they can go, because obviously all the cars do just that. But with 18 minutes left on the clock, it's looking a little bit tentative for those competitors. We have a very decent run. 18 minutes to go. But the car that leads the way is the car that started on the back row. And it is Gavin Huang at the wheel, having taken over from Jonathan Giacotto. And then, of course, we have Charles Leong having taken over from Alex Denning. And behind them, we have Ethan Brown, who's taken back over from Nicholas Pirtelati. Side by side, that's the 7 car. That's the Bungraf by Racecraft car that we saw take a victory yesterday, the number 7 machine. It was Li Jikong who was behind the wheel of that car. Now it is going to be just Li Jungwo. But there is the 32. Second position is all that Ancho Long appears to be conceding to another competitor in another class. But this is one of those friendly and amiable series where a lot of things can happen all in one go. And you're going to get a real spread of the draw across these competitors. I'm quite keen on seeing just how much of a leg in this race the cars have got in second and third position, because this could be the best chance yet, and maybe even the only chance for a team that isn't Toyota. Sorry, a team that isn't at the sharp end of the field, I should say. I was going to mention the fantastic run at the sharp end of the field from the Japanese driver. That's why I got out of sorts there. Tokumasu is what I meant to say. 4th position for him. He's handed over to Chang-Woo Lee, the Korean driver. Track limits warning for the first time for the 99. That is Juntai Shiro for the Promotion Racing team. 16 minutes to go in the race. And Gavin Huang leads the way in the number 11 BC Racing car, leading the pro category, having started from dead last. Now, the BC Racing team have not yet scored a victory overall in this championship in 2025. They've had some difficulties for the other cars, certainly for the Lepet Motorsport number 27 and the 32 car, the SJM Theodore car. They've taken wins so far this year, as too has the number 7 of Li Shikong and Jung Woo Lee. That is the car, of course, from the Lamborghini Bundang by Racecraft team. The reason that that's fairly recent is, of course, they took that victory yesterday in race number 1. Now, where are they on this occasion? They're only P5 now, so it does look as though points are on offer, but I don't think a race victory is. So off the hairpin, 15 minutes to go. And Gavin Huang has actually got 2.5 seconds here on Charles Leong. What you have to remember about Charles Leong is that he is not a slow coach of a driver. You give him a good car on a good day on a good track that he knows well, and he is going to pull out all the stops. There is Charles Leong and Ethan Brown battling away over 2nd position in the race. Then a bit of a gap back to Cheng-Woo Lee, who has taken possession of his position of the run through on the far side. It's getting quite tricky further back as well. We've got from 6th position down to 8th. This is a 3-car brawl for position, and I have to say I absolutely love watching it at the moment. We've got, let's call it 10.44 all the way down to 25, or let's not, let's wait until we get that graphic on our screen again, because for the moment we are on board with the Zik Zadil O for the Edge Fortis and Absolute D. On board. Perfect, turnkey, some kind of effect. So as the field works its way through on the far side and then loops back out of the bus stop to the closing sector of the lap, Gavin Huang is doing everything he can to stay in front of the hard-charging Ethan Brown, who currently has a win to his name this season. 2nd in the championship coming into this weekend. He wanted to make sure he got as many decent points from this weekend as he possibly could. But with 13 minutes remaining, it's all looking particularly tasty and simplified for Gavin Huang. The gap is 1.8, so Charles Leong is actually closing in. He is making a bit of an inroad into the race leader and causing them a real headache when it comes to all sorts of battles out on the course. So Hazik Zadel O is the one that continues in close proximity there, runs on the course in very good stead. He's got good slipstream. Now the car in front of him, that is the car belonging to Yao Yangbo. So they're trying to get themselves a little bit further forward. Let's look at the order of each individual class, waiting to see which teams are going to work their way into the top 3 in each championship. Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Race 2 here at Fuji Speedway with 12.5 minutes still to go. Gavin Huang leads the way for the BC Racing team with his pro teammate Jonathan Cecotto having charged his way through the field earlier on, and it is now actually looking as though the BC Racing crew could pick up their first win of the season. Second place for Charles Leong, running in the 32, the SJM Theodore racing machine. And then third position is the other car that's taken a victory in the previous 2 weekends. That is the number 27 of Ethan Brown. He's taken his car, in which he is second in the Drivers' Championship, back again, away from a man who will never forget that particular battle out on the course. Down the straight, and still Gavin Huang has got himself a decent advantage here. He's got himself a really good lead that he doesn't have to panic too much about. He's just got to tick over and keep doing his thing. You can see on the left of your screen the pro that denotes is denoted by the colour orange, and then the Pro-Am is in yellow, the Am is in green, and the Lamborghini Cup for the elder statesmen of the sport are in blue. Now, diving to the inside line. Got to pick your moments when they come. You never know if they're going to come again. A very solid start to proceedings then. But I've got a feeling that this isn't over yet for the victory. I think that Charles de Jong is only going to be fired up and motivated to get back on terms with the man who's been able to put this all together. Put on a spectacular show on the sidelines here. Drivers will continue to watch on. Great to see some of these onboards this weekend. We haven't had many opportunities to get an onboard picture this season. So now we ride to have a look and see how the order is for Gavin Huang, and he is really starting to lose that ground to Charles de Jong. 10 minutes left of this race and this weekend, and it looks to me as though Charles de Jong is going to be making an attack on the BC racing car of Gavin Huang as soon as is humanly possible. But now you can see that Huang is trying to break the toe. He would have learned all of this racecraft, of course, from his teammate Jonathan Cecotto. Having a very sort of, oh, that's the 27. That's Ethan Brown. Ethan Brown has spun it. Ethan Brown has spun it in the Leopard Motorsport car. Now, was that self-inflicted or was he aided? Because that is the man fighting for the championship. That's blown his chances of getting a podium finish here. So it's going to be Li Jikong and Jungwoo Lee that are going to take a podium here in the number 7 car, the Bundang by Racecraft car. But Ethan Brown beached on the curbs there, almost. There is a car in pit lane. Not entirely sure which car that is in pit lane, but certainly shouldn't be for another time. That is Gavin Huang, I do believe. So Gavin Huang has come into the pits. Now, he was leading, of course. So with Gavin Huang having to exit the pits and now rejoin right in the heart of the field, this is any chance they had of taking the victory well and truly scuppered. So Gavin Huang comes into the pits for the 2nd time in this race. And the first of those, of course, was perfectly scheduled. My goodness me, big drama here then as Ethan Brown rejoins after that little spin in 15th position. I wonder if we'll get to see what happened. Was that self-inflicted? Ah, there was a little contact by the look of it. This is the replay of it. So I would suspect then that we are going to get a potential investigation into it, are we? Because we've certainly got a car or two now in trouble. So that looks to me like the Scooby cars that we saw having a very entertaining race of it. Well, no, actually, no, I think this is a separate incident, isn't it? I think this is a separate incident. We get going again, and all of a sudden, Charles de Jong and Alex Denning have it ridiculously easy up front. So Gavin Huang's car, of course, having made its visit to the pits. But the car that we saw stopped out on the circuit there, having had a horrendous final sector. That was, well, we've had the off for Ethan Brown, but I think we've also got a couple of other guilty faces. I'm trying to pick out who you all are. So now can Charles Leong continue this determined drive with 7 minutes remaining to stay in front of Changwoo Lee and his teammate Kohei Tokumatsu, along with the team in third position, Jojin Song and Brendan Leach. It has just been a very difficult day in general for a very intense conclusion to this race if things keep going as they are. There is Charles Leong. So a good effort from him so far to keep himself in the mix. But with 6 minutes to go, it's looking like he's going to be uncatchable. Clouds over Mount Fuji. Yet again, the backdrop really doesn't do this sport any justice at all. It is marvelous to behold. We go through across the line once again then for Charles Leong. Second place, that is the Changwoo Lee and Kohei Tokumatsu car now. So some big shocks in this race then. Gavin Huang obviously returning to the circuit after his visit to the pits. I think that must have been for a penalty of some kind or a puncture of some kind, something that we didn't really see. That's truly affected the outcome of this race, particularly it has. Not only that incident for Shinji Takei, but also, to a certain extent, there is a bit of an argument to suggest that the carpenter at that particular team has a 5-star machine that we're not going to be able to get on the far side. 6 minutes, just under to go. Don't forget that it's down to the timing line, and whenever the leader has is on the lead lap with 0 seconds to go, then that is when the drivers really want to start maximizing the most out of these engines with the final couple of final pitch perfect moments to get it right. Look at the recovery drive that is needed further back. This is rather devastating stuff, as they certainly didn't want to be running their car towards the back end of the field. I believe that particular kart is being driven. You're going to have to correct me on this if you go and have a look for it later in the week, because I'm not entirely sure the correct pronunciation there, but certainly a fantastic run. 4.5 minutes to go. Charles Leong, 4.6 seconds ahead of Song Jun. Brendan Leach has got ahead and moved into second place. So it looks as though Lee Changwoo has actually had a bit of an issue out on track, and he's dropped out of the top 6 himself now. So it's yet another drama-filled race, this one. Yet another investigation from our side into what actually happened there for the driver in question. But you certainly don't need me to tell you, do you? It's fairly obvious the way that the chips are down. And so with just 4 minutes, not even 4 minutes remaining, Charles Leong has got this one in the bag. Brendan Leach is trying to catch him, but he's got 6 seconds to make up to Charles Leong. So Charles Leong looking good for the lead here and the victory in front of Brendan, the 89. Still pushing hard in second position to try and get back on terms here with Charles Leong. The gap is 6 seconds with 3 minutes to go. Now, looking at my mathematics, that means that when the leader starts this lap, we'll be on the penultimate lap of racing. What a strange race this has been, though. So many drivers able to run towards the sharp end after the pit stops, all of them hitting several types of trouble as well, by the look of it. We had some of the drivers preparing, as they often do, by ping pong. It's good for the old reaction tests. A couple of the members of the paddock have been engaging in some of the simulators as well. That really does simulate what it's like to drive a Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia car on the limit around this particular course. 2 minutes 34 on the clock as the leaders go through. Charles de Jong in the lead from Sung Ja-jun and Chen Chunhua, sorry. Then it is Li Zhigong who's taken back possession of the car. Nazdin Amar, Nasim Asman, of course, sharing the booth this time as they continue their great battle. But it's getting spicy now in the lower classes. It's getting like a very interesting 2 minutes plus some change as they go out through towards turn 6. And then charging the drop. Oh, that might have been turn 9, actually. Thinking about where the position of the camera was for the first reactions. But there is the change in the graphic that denotes the color. The pro car, there it is, the 32 of Charles de Jong and Alex Denning is looking for win number 3 out of 6 to put them into a very strong lead in the championship. Turn 16 incident involving 67 and 5 will be recorded at the end of the race. That is Hazik Zaral O, and I think the other one might have been Abdullah Amar. So now we get blue flags. Hopefully they're not going to cause too much of an issue. As through goes Charles de Jong. He's got a minute to go on the timer. So they may decide to go into an additional formation lap, or they may decide just to call this race early. Leader is on the last lap. Here we go. So for Charles de Jong, it's plain sailing, as that is one car there getting well out of the way. I think that might even be one of the cars from the AM category, just having a real struggle there to keep the car on the road exactly the way he likes it. But it's going to be a victory for Charles de Jong, who's driven very smoothly in front of his teammate Alex Denning, his whole crew. He has shown that this car has got great potential over in Japan. It's not known as a Vauxhall in the UK. It's known as Mattel. 13 seconds. And so it's time for Charles de Jong to start getting ready for the celebration. Brendan Leach has done everything he can to catch him, but the gap is 5.4 seconds. He's just going to run out of time. And so here comes Charles de Jong, the young man from Macau, sharing his car with the Irishman Alex Denning. It's been a very smooth race operation as we watch the Z-Speed car of Tim Zimmerman charge his way into third position in the closing stages. It'll be a really exciting overall podium. But here comes the victor for the 3rd time this season. It is the SJM Theodore Racing Crew that get the victory in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia 2025. 3 wins out of 6. 50% strike rate for Charles de Jong, who crosses the line with his teammate Alex Denning, no doubt on the pit wall, watching it all unfold. Brendan Leach charged he and his teammate Sung Ja-jun up into 2nd position. It was a very good effort indeed. And in 3rd position, we also had Chen Chunhua having to hand that car over fairly quickly, I imagine, to Tim Zimmerman, who is in 3rd position overall. 2nd in the pro category, well, that goes the way of Li Zhigong and Junwoo Lee after keeping their nose clean and out of harm's way. 2nd position in the class will be going to them as they finish 4th, as they finish, I want to say they finished 5th position, but I'm not entirely sure. But certainly no problems about who is leading the charge into the next round of the championship, which of course will take place in a few weeks' time at the Inja Podium in South Korea. One of the newer race circuits in the region, and a fantastic place for Lamborghini Super Trofeo to be pitching up and getting this lovely crowd of car modders in Asia to go from Japan across to the very talented people and incredible facilities of the Inja Podium at South Korea. But a great day at the office though for Charles de Jong and Alex Denning. And that, of course, is going to be win number 3 for them out of 6. If we're looking just from the top 3 for each class, obviously it's Charles de Jong and Alex Denning that have taken the victory in the pro category. 2nd in pro is Li Zhigong and Junwoo Lee, who are only 4th in this race. And 3rd, and joining them on the podium again, Surprising that that's the only real rookie that we've seen in the past. That is going the way of and so the victorious number 32 crew, the SJM Theodore team, Charles de Jong and Alex Denning will come through for the victory. Let's have a look at the other classes while we've got a chance as well. The winners in Pro-Am are Brendan Leach and Song Jia-jun, ahead of Chen Chunhua and Tim Zimmerman. The third best Pro-Am team was fantastic Jiang Wu Li alongside Kohei Tokubasu. So that's the Pro-Am podium. In the Am category, it's going to be another victory for Jun Taishiro. So a good effort there from Jun Taishiro, who will obviously finish on a victory note. And then I think I just saw the flashes of Haziq Zadel O there in second position. A lot of people had a lot of success in that race. A lot of other people had a lot of disaster. I am looking at the guys from the team right at the sharp end. That's the DW Evans GT car. That is fifth position, Nazim Azman. He's going to be all over that, I'm sure, over the next week. You give him a project, he does tend to love to do it. So now the cars are stationary at the foot of the pit lane, and it's time for the teams to celebrate their achievement. Alex Denning is stood on the sidelines, waiting to greet his stablemate. The very calm, smooth and calculated drive there of Charles de Jong, giving them their third different win in 3 rounds of the championship. So first and foremost, make sure that everybody on the gram knows what's going on. As they take the social media pictures down in Parc Ferme. That is Leung-Hon Cho, or I should say, of course, Ben Barker, Alex Denning, managing to score another victory there. There is Alex Denning celebrating with his teammate Charles de Jong, the young man from Macau. They did a fair job. They worked very hard indeed there to get the victory. And so they will head out to the first of 4 podiums. That is David Kennedy coming over to congratulate the team. Such a big fillet to have David Kennedy in the squad. Former Grand Prix driver, former Le Mans 24 Hours legend. So great to see him in the pits, celebrating with the SJM Theodore team. There are smiles all round and big hugs for a lot of the teams, because there are some winning efforts and great performances across the classes. So in the Pro-Am category, it is Song Jia-jun and Brendan Leach that take the victory on this particular occasion. Second overall, but they get a class win to boot. Another class win for the Am category. That is Jun Taishiro for the promotion racing team. Even with the 5-second handicap for not changing drivers, he still manages to pursue and come through for the race victory. And in the Lamborghini Cup, despite being pitched into a spin at the first corner, it is the Batmobile racing car of Shinji Takei who comes through. His circuit knowledge here at Fuji clearly helping him in a good position as the talented competitors run through. We're just going to wait for the closing phase of this race weekend. We have one final podium ceremony, and of course it's going to be 4 ceremonies in one here. Now there is an incident we already know about that we mentioned before involving the 67 and the 11. So that is a collision between Gavin Huang and Yao Liangbo, the climax car that drops back. But there is the provisional result anyway. SJM Theodore takes the victory in front of Bundang by Racegraphs number 7. That is the pro category result, don't forget, ahead of Brendan Leach and Song Jia-jun. Well, that's a different result to the one I've got in front of me, because I'm not sure the number 7 crossed the line in second place, was it? I'm fairly sure that managed to get so in 4th place. At least that's what it says on my timings page. We'll have a look into it. We'll double check. But of course, it's worth pointing out that the incident that took down the number 11 of Gavin Huang and dropped him all the way to 9th position when he had been previously leading. And the 67 of Yao Liangbo in climax, number 67, that put them effectively both out of contention, although a 9th place finish in the end was all that could be salvaged by Gavin Huang. So now we're just waiting for the first of these the first of these 4 podium ceremonies, I should say. So we're going to have to continue in a very close proximity. I'll be fascinated to see who is able to come through in good position at the closing stages of this season. We've got our podium finishes now. So it's going to be the 32, the 7 and the 16 on the pro podium, because of course they don't go for an overall podium. They only go for individual class podiums here. So that means it's going to be top step of the podium then for Charles de Jong and Alex Denning for SJ and Theodore. Second on the ladder is going to be the 7. That is Jungwoo Lee and Li Jikong for the Lamborghini burned down by Racecraft. That won yesterday, don't forget. So a second position will definitely help them out a lot. And then bringing up the rear in that category, the number 16, Nazim Azman, looks particularly demoralized with that 3rd position. I think he would have had a little bit more than that had the chance arisen. But a podium will still be fairly satisfactory for Nazim Azman and Emilian Card. I think they would have liked to have made it another 1-2, like we saw from the teams in Australia. But certainly, hey, double podium, including the win. You can't sniff at that. So we're just waiting now for the 4 podium ceremonies to kick off here at the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Championship, the 3rd weekend of the season, the 4th weekend of the season. But of course, after today, we are running out of methods to slow down this gargantuan lead that is currently being held by a very interesting set of drivers preparing for the off. So we'll just wait, and we'll hopefully get the 2 drivers from each car to bring themselves into the action. It's a championship that's grown very quickly over the years. There's something about racing Lamborghinis that gives a racing driver a real chill down the spine. And never has that been more magnified than at a circuit like this one at Fuji, where it is all about top-end speed. And you have to blend that top-end speed as well with very diverse settings to the car to make it really come alive and sing. I know that racing drivers have told me about this happening in other categories. So it is the kind of thing that you would expect to look forward towards. But now it looks as though the dignitaries are going to make their way out onto the course very soon indeed. And so the first of our 4 podium ceremonies will greet the drivers out onto the course. And so the first of our 4 podium ceremonies will take precedence here at Fuji Speedway. So it will be Charles de Jong and the very talented Alex Denning on the top step of the podium. All that hard work done by Alex Denning in the opening stint to stay with the eventual slump car in the field that went and fell right the way outside the top 10 for a time. Managed eventually to fought their way back up. The Pro-Am category, as we know, is going to be made up of 3 very competitive teams as well. And those particular teams are Brendan Leitch alongside Sung Jia-jung, taking 2nd position overall. Almost got the overall victory there. 3rd position was Tim Zimmerman. So Tim Zimmerman is what I meant to say. All came out a little bit too fast there for the likes of a normal Sunday race broadcast from the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia in Fuji Speedway. In the AM category, it is Jun Taishiro, the promotion racing car on his own. Then it is the HZO Fortes racing team by Absolute with the Malaysian colours for Hari and Harik Zadal O. So they will be 2nd. And then in 3rd position, I think you might just be able to tempt a certain very impressive set of rules here. So we wait for the teams to venture out onto the course then, and they will collect and celebrate with their race trophies from round four, I should say, and race 2 of the category. I was mumbling over my worms, and I find out that I was actually correct the first time. It is the 3rd weekend of the series for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. They only get 2 more left in the series, of course. Inja at South Korea, and then the very last event of the championship, of course, taking place in Sepang in Malaysia. So now we're going to get everybody out into their podium positions. It's taking a little bit longer than it usually does, I have to say. So there must be some kind of confusion or hesitation bringing everybody out. But now we get the crews out. Victory for Alex Denning and Charles Leong for the SJM Theodore Racing team. That's their 3rd win out of 6 starts this year. They really have been sensational.
3rd place, car number 16 from DW Evans GT, Nazim Yatman, Armenian car.
This is in the pro category, of course, so that is Li Jikong and Jung Wo Lee for the Racing by Bungraf team squad.
Now it's my honor to invite Mr. Francesco Scardone, Region Director of Lamborghini Asia Pacific, to present the trophy.
SJM Theodore, Mark, essentially the sister team cars, those two, managing to come through for a pro podium. Big disaster for Ethan Brown on this occasion after that spin earlier on that dropped him all the way back to 5th position in the class behind Gavin Huang, who also ended up having a spin as well. So some very interesting times then.
And congratulations to the winning team.
But it is going to be a fascinating victory then. The 3rd time this year out of 6 for the team. Excellent display and a great performance from the crew. And for the DW Evans GT team there to come through for a spectacular performance and a really good effort there from the crew. They've been absolutely sensational all the way through. The team trophy in the mix there. Excellent to see everybody come through in fine proximity.
Okay, thank you.
Well, what a great race battle it was indeed there. Fantastic duel all the way through. We really got to see some fantastic performances. And great to see everybody putting on a really good show, I have to say. Lovely to see everybody in good spirits and in fine style. The champagne sprayed there in brilliant fashion. And good to see everybody really enjoying themselves here in the 2nd of our 2 races. They certainly gave us a lot to get excited about. And it was really good to see everybody giving us plenty to get motivated and excited about there. Excellent work from the crew and everyone really enjoying the celebrations after a very competitive race, that one. We had all 5 cars on the podium at various stages of the race. So they definitely gave us a lot of excitement on this particular occasion. So well done for everybody for giving us a really good showcase. So that is the first of our 4 podiums completed, of course.
And we're having now the podium ceremony for race 2 of 2025 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Fuji
come up for the 2nd podium ceremony. That's the Pro-Am ceremony that will be next up. And the winning crew will be that of the Leopard Motorsport number 89 car. So that is going to be Song Jia-jun and Brendan Leach. There they are. They make their way to the podium on the top step. Good work on the Leopard Motorsport crew. So for Leopard Motorsport, it is Brendan Leach and Song Jia-jun. They come through for the victory. Good effort as well for the car that's in behind them.
3rd place, car number 16.
Very good work indeed from the Z Speed crew. They can be very happy indeed with the way that has also shaped out for them. Tim Zimmerman sharing his car in very competitive stead, I have to say, for the Z-Speed crew with Chen Chunhua. And then the third position crew in the Pro-Am category. You've got to go all the way back to 7th position. It's the SQDA Grit Motorsport car of Chang Woo Lee and his stablemate, Kohai Tokumasu. It pays to bring a ringer to these circuits every now and then. And the ringer display, certainly a very impressive one from the competitors, as they gave us a really exciting showcase. Victory then in Pro-Am for Lepert Motorsport ahead of Z-Speed and the SQDA Grit Motorsport cars. And so they will celebrate in fine style. Lepert Motorsport didn't get the win this weekend in the Pro category, but they certainly did get a Pro-Am category. And of course, they have a lot to celebrate there, Brendan H. and Song Jun, because they were the 2nd car home overall as well. The team's trophy is presented to the Lepert Motorsport team. And too right to see everybody on the podium enjoying the celebration and the sense of occasion in this particular championship. Always great to see. And so, unless they've been provided for you with the one, it's been a fantastic end to the race day battle then for Brendan H. and Song Jun. They celebrate in style, and you'll notice that the podium ceremony very different to yesterday because the teams are all spraying each other with the bubbly on this occasion. They don't tend to very dramatically at the end of race 1 because, of course, at the end of race 1, they've got to get themselves ready for race 2, and they will want to use the same overalls, of course. You don't have 2 pairs of overalls in a weekend, so you don't want to spray yourself with the bubbly stuff too early on in the meeting. And so we have 2 more podium ceremonies to conduct here. The first of those, of course, being the AM class podium. And the victory, well, it doesn't happen every day, but it is nice to see that the promotion racing team, albeit with only one driver, is going to come through for the victory in the category. There's a beautiful symmetry to the podium now, if you look at it from the distance, but it is the promotion racing car number 99 that takes the AM class victory in the capable hands of Jun Taishiro. Even with the handicap penalty at the pit stop, he still had the pace
second place, car
to
number
come through and pick up the victory in the AM
racing
category.
Team
Second place, though, it is Hazik and Hari Zaro O of the Edge ZO Fortis Racing Team by Absolute. And they stomp their way in. They want to get themselves down to the West End. They might be able to come up with a musical. And in third position, a fabulous run from the Absolute Racing combination of Vincenzo Ricci and Du Qianhao.
It's my honor to invite
for the 2 drivers. They really have been sensational in this one.
Lamborghini Japan to present the trophy.
Congratulations to the 3 crews, particularly though for our race winner, Jun Taishiro. Really did give us plenty of excitement. And it's great to see that Jun Taishiro can come away from this race with a superb effort and a great result. The trophies are handed as well to Hazik and Hari Zaidal O of the HZO Fortis by Absolute Squad, and the 3rd place trophies handed to Vincenzo Ricci alongside his co-driver Du Jianhao.
Welcome the winning team onto the podium, Promotion Racing.
And of course, there's plenty of exciting races still to come
in
the 2025 campaign for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia category. We've had 3 fantastic weekends so far at Sydney Motorsport Park in Australia, at the Shanghai International Circuit in China, and here at Fuji Speedway in Japan. The next stop on the calendar is, of course, the Inja Stadium at South Korea. That'll be exciting to see what happens there. And then, of course, the season finale will be taking place in early September at the Sepang International Circuit in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Great performance then for the man on the top spot, Jun Taishiro. Very happy to see how it works. Jun Taishiro, I should say. I do apologize. Right, the final podium ceremony then. We'll see the 3 Lamborghini Cup drivers making their way to the podium. And yet again, it's one of those situations where we end up with significantly fewer members of the community on the podium than we first thought there would be. First of all, the winning car is the Batmobile racing machine, and it is the Japanese driver Shinji Takei, which is quite incredible when you think that at the first corner on the first lap, he was facing the wrong way. There was a little pitch into a spin for Shinji Takei. So despite the fact that his stablemate is not here, Kumar Prapagadan,
and let's welcome the second place,
they can be very happy with the way that Shinji Takei was able to come through and take a victory in the Lamborghini Cup race here in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia 2025 at Fuji in race 2. Second, it is Superchai. Superchai
number 17 from
who makes his way to the podium once again for the Siam Gas Corsa team. Another Lone Ranger. And then in third position, it's the double act of Eng Peng Go, who lines up on the podium alongside his stablemate in fantastic fashion, Terence Kim.
Managing Director of Roger to Bush, Japan, to present the trophy.
They will complete the podium celebrations. Just 4 drivers to give trophies to on this occasion. But now the championship fight, of course, is heating up. The big headline from this weekend is that we did get a third different crew joining the team from Lepert Motorsport number 27 and, of course, the winning crew from SJM Theodore Racing on 2 separate occasions.
And the winning team,
but now we have a third team that has won a race as well, and that is the Bundang by Racecraft squad.
Again, Mr. Makoto Matsuda from Hankook Marketing to present the trophy.
And so they became the third different winners of the championship yesterday. But SJM Theodore have made sure they have taken a victory on no less than, I'm trying to do the math here now, it is actually 4 occasions out of the last 6. And so by the time we get to Incheon in South Korea on the Speedium, this could be a chance for SJM Theodore to seal the championship title. That's what's at stake for them. Well, it looks as though the second and third place crews have disappeared to leave our Lamborghini Cup winner Shinji Takei to get busy with the fizzy on his own. So a hearty congratulations to the teams and the drivers. We will ask them all to return to the podium for the end of weekend group photograph at the end of race 2. So all teams and all drivers will go to the podium for the Class of Fuji 2025 photograph with all of the competitors across all 4 podiums. But for our coverage of this magnificent event, the third round of the 2025 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Championship from Fuji, that's it. And we've had magnificent racing so far in Australia, in China and Japan. Now our next stop is South Korea before the finale in Malaysia. And then, of course, all roads lead to the World Finals of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo in Italy in the autumn. From me, Jake Sanson, and from the whole crew, thank you so much for being with us. We are very excited to welcome you to Korea next time. But from Fuji, domo arigato. See you next time.